video today as my the past couple of days. I had a lot of stuff to do, and going out generally becomes at least a half a day thing. Um, but it used to be just 3 or 4 hours, but now it's like half the day. Um, but this is the VA in Saginaw. A lot of this I place on them because they do, they'll do lots of tests randomly, even for sugar or for liver or anything, but they're not consistent, not at all. The only thing they were consistent about was liver function test. That's it. But even after they test things, they don't diagnose anything. They don't change anything. They don't treat anything. Um, Not that I'm complaining. That us veterans receive care, but just burning money without diagnosing anything, without treating anything, it's just wasteful. It really is wasteful. And it's pretty obvious there that I will probably never be treated for anything, and I will definitely never get any compensation that other people are. Now, the lady that denied me the power chair, um, the time will come when I'll put names in this video, but I have to talk, find counsel first, a lawyer. But the medical providers, I can just file complaints. Many of them have already complained about me, tried to paint me in a very negative picture, which has been pretty consistent the past 8 years. Anything negative or destructive towards myself, towards my daughters, and towards my youngest daughter's mother. Anything destructive or negative, people will do. Even neighbors, complexes, apartment complexes, anything negative. But there's no legal impediments. There's no investigations. There's no court cases. Um, you know, we have went to court one time for a credit card that refused to even verify my identity and what charges are mine, despite all the identity theft documentation I gave them. But that's the only time I've been in court. Oh well, besides the claim that I lied on a police report by saying, what was it? Oh, they said I classified something as a crime in my police report that it's not a crime. Anyway, but apparently stalking, is not a crime anymore. And if you say the word stalking and they don't think it is, which generally would be decided by a prosecutor, you'll be charged with a fake police report. But anyway, it's pretty obvious that that even the compensation that I deserve, I served over there too. I have issues too. Many of them are related to either being over there, plus having the wrong genetics. Some people come back from over there, and when they're here for, a couple of years, everything hits them hard. I'm one of those people. I was over there till 2011, then in the tropics for better part of 10 years after that in the tropics, nowhere where I had allergies. We were living off the land, even in the market, everything is fresh. And we know some of the growers. Um, so I'm rarely sick there. I'm not that I'm not, but rarely because of the environment. Um, and I would be interested to know if people come back from the Middle East, soldiers, sailors, and Marines, and Coast Guards persons come back from the Middle East, and then they go to an area where they don't have any allergies. Um, the food is fresh, almost organic, and the temperature is a very comfortable ambient temperature. I would be curious to know if it delays the onset of some of these issues. Um, I would bet that it does. That's why people from the Midwest sometimes with certain issues, they move to Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, California, places where there's less less immunological agitators. Um, but anyway, so a lot of these issues uh, are because being over there, and again, genetics, and several issues because the VA ignores them. They don't do anything, and they're obsessed with making me look like a, a pork rind eating, um, pork chop devouring, um, lard cooking alcoholic. Somebody that just chows down on anything with fat. Um, I'm always eating my let's see, something fatty. My my ribs and my something else fatty. My pork chops and my turkey legs. And then drinking a case of beer with it. A big facetious, of course. Then they are looking at anything else. Um, so if anything happens to me fatal, a lot of the fault bears down on the Saginaw VA. A lot of it. And, some of these things can be treated easily because my doctor or former doctor, he still has a Medicaid authorization number. He can use my private insurance to do these things, as well as a PACT Act treatment, specifically for the power chair, but they refuse to. Being I have so many issues. Oh, and another thing, the lady was telling me about how her husband, they told him he has rheumatoid arthritis in one joint. And what I'm describing doesn't sound like rheumatoid arthritis. I'm like, lady, first of all, rheumatoid arthritis almost statistically nearly always presents bilaterally, if not immediately, within a short amount of time. And I'm like, every single issue I have is bilateral. Everything. It's just, well, my husband only has it in one joint. I'm like, well, generally, they would not diagnose that as rheumatoid arthritis. Somebody hooked him up. He's a veteran, too. Sounds to me like he got hooked up. But, the ability to diagnose one joint with rheumatoid arthritis, you're talking about trying to find the one um, uh, red painted straw inside of a whole truckload of bales of straw. Um, he would have to have so many pseudocysts and then joint deformities and the lining. Have to have visible lining that's damaged, but also demonstration of that joint swelling at the same time. The hard part is seeing a swelling episode. Generally, I know when I'm getting a swelling episode because I'll feel it. My skin will be tightening, and then all of a sudden I can't. I can only move my hand, like a half fist, um, and then I'll just feel like I got hit by a truck, like I have kind of like a flu kind of thing, and then the bones will start to hurt. That's generally how I can tell. Um, and generally, it's only certain limbs when this happens. But usually, um, it'll happen like certain limbs, one limb, and then the other side, and then it's kind of like I don't want to say a moving down, but you can feel it slowly, and by the time it's done, you feel like garbage. And your pain, sometimes the pain can be really bad. You'll almost cry. For me, it's the hand pain in both sides, and then the bone pain in my legs. But I just try to tighten things up, just to push back at it. Tighten it up and still flex, even though it hurts, just to push back. You gotta keep pushing back against pain. Don't let it push you. But anyway, so it's my thinking that this lady's husband got hooked up because the difficulty in diagnosing one joint as rheumatoid, like I said, statistically, you're like trying to find the red painted straw in an entire truckload of bales of hay. Yeah, very difficult. That's probably not a great analogy. You're looking for the one painted fiber of straw, an entire truckload of bales of straw. That's probably better. But telling people don't go to the Saginaw VA. I have another vet that I always joke around with. He's an old timer, and he went there like 20 years ago. No, I think he said he stopped going about 10 years ago. And he said it used to be a good VA. And I remember back up until 2019, 2020, I actually got good care there. And then something changed. I would say, 2019, 2020. I stopped going there because COVID. And then our complex rented our home from underneath of us, so we became homeless. And then it was empty for 6 months because they lied, and I hope God judged them for that sin done in with great maliciousness. But then something changed, and then especially the urgent care, seem to not have such great physicians anymore. I don't know what changed, but and some of the stuff that this place does, oh my gosh, some of the underhanded stuff, some of the stuff that just makes no sense. Test and test and test, but not treat anything, not diagnose anything. It's just like, it's like walking somebody up to the noose and slowly pulling back the plank until there's no space left. Then they have to put the noose on, and then you pull the plank out all the way. Kind of like that. They just are pushing somebody up to the ledge, and repeatedly dropping things off the ledge. Yeah, don't forget. Don't forget. I would accuse this VA of many of the staff there of also violations of the Geneva Convention. Some of the things they have done, and you never hear back from the patient advocate. Yeah. How many other people have they killed? But at least people have told me, oh, yeah, if something happens to you, don't worry. Your daughter's not going to go in foster care or anything. We've taken steps. Excuse me? What did you just say to me? Oh, your daughters don't like you anyway. Really? But, God always lets the truth be opened. It's just in the time that's right for him. So I abandoned my perception and my will to his time frame. But there's a lot of evil going on in the world. A lot of evil. Look at such a short time frame that we had Pope Francis. At first, I didn't believe anything. I thought it was fake news because he was improving. But I guess that last day, he just did too much. It sounds like he was getting better. I can't remember if he drove around the crowds first or if it was he saw the vice president and his family first. I think it was he drove around the crowds first. He just did too much. But let me tell you that would not be a memory that I would want to carry with me the rest of my life. Oh yeah, I was among the last people to see the Holy Father before he died. I would not want to carry that one. But like I said in another video, if I was some kind of cabinet member or White House personnel and I went to see, the elected leader of the Catholic world, I would make sure I made a confession. The first thing, myself, my spouse, my children, make a confession first. Receive the sacrament first before anything else. And then connect with him personally. That's what he was like. Like I said in another video, the similarities between him and St. John Paul II and even Pope Benedict in certain ways, they're there. So many similarities. Just people didn't like his politics like they didn't like Francis's politics. St. Francis of Assisi also made some things, say, some observations and some critiques of the church and even of society at the time, and some people didn't like that. Made fun of him because he lived with, what was it, one book I read? They said he lives with his animals in caves. That was what one detractor said at one time. He lives like a hermit with his animals in caves and his friends. But yeah, so they criticized him too. But anyway, um, so be careful at the Saginaw VA, and I mean, at least the diagnostic imaging and stuff like that. At least I'll know what's causing all of these issues. But I know that they're not going to say the truth. So many bilateral joint and and joint and soft tissue issues and everything. Yeah, I would, if I had a full body MRI, it'd be very interesting. Because how can you have joint destruction and have swelling and have tissue thinning and having pockets on your bones, on the bulb of the bone, and then pseudocysts, which are basically pockets of fluid and joint destruction, and your soft tissues are still perfectly normal. How is that even possible? But anyway, I feel the pressure. I feel the pain, the difficulty getting up, getting down, and getting moving. Um, anyway, running out of pain things too. Can't afford marijuana. I can't keep taking paracetamol. Can't take ibuprofen anymore. I'm running out of stuff, and I'm not a big person for taking opiates. Closest I would go would be marijuana. But not with being a single parent, taking that, somebody will find a way to criticize me. It's my laundry behind. Somebody entered our home last year and destroyed our dryer. It was always making noise and wobbling and stuff, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I opened up the dryer and found that it was moving around. It couldn't seat itself properly, so the belt could turn it, because somebody had opened up the door, and two different places they used a hammer to hammer the dryer, right where the belt sits and where it sits on like a kind of like a device, kind of like a hanger, so it can spin. And they hammered it in just the right place. And now, sorry, my hand's starting to itch every morning. But some people laughed at this, but actually, so my daughter, generally she's my sidekick. So after we opened it up, we compared different things, that would cause something like that, because there's no way that the dryer can damage itself like that with a big indentation. And we found that a hammer fits, specifically our hammer. It fits perfectly the indentation. This is what forensic scientists do. And yeah, the bulb of the hammer fit perfectly into the indentation. Actually, there was two indentations. One was really bad. The one at the back Why, you ask? Because you can get the longest swing if you hit in the back. So it was hit in the back and in the front, but like I said, the worst damage was done in the very back of the drum. And you can't pound these out. This is steel. You can't just pound them out. And even if you did pound it out, it still wouldn't rest normally, to be silent or to properly stay in the same track. It would, move just a little as it would spin. So we lost our dryer. But anyway, so be cautious with that VA, and I kind of think that I could kind of feel sympathy with Pope Francis' situation because he's been surrounded with a lot of destructive people too. Being as I used to be a conservative, I can see where you go to the point of being a Pharisee and you become destructive. I'm not saying you don't see that from the left too. Some people extremely, extremely liberal also can lose their empathy and become destructive. But if you stay with the Holy Spirit and you sit where you're supposed to, with the Holy Spirit telling you, okay, rest here. This is, the position that you should hold to. Specifically with church law, with the application of the catechism, I tend to stand with the professional interpretation and interlocution and praxis of canon law and church teaching, because they have the experts, the theological commissions, the deacons, sisters, priests, bishops, metropolitans, and cardinals and archbishops that have the 1, 2, 3 PhDs. There's some lay people in there too, but I would tend to not drop church teaching on merely my interpretation. Oh no, full stop. No, I don't agree with that. And then criticize people publicly. And even if you're going to criticize people privately, it should be a certain amount of decorum. These are the leaders of your church. And if we start to poke away and deconstruct the church, like, postmodern American, conservative and liberal, we want to deconstruct everything. This is coming from somebody who studied anthropology as an undergrad, actually got a bachelor's degree as an anthropologist. If we want to deconstruct something in postmodern fashion, be very careful, because you deconstruct the church, you're committing one of the grievous sins of all, grieving the Holy Spirit.